Hey everybody, it's Baileywiki, and I can't believe it. Finally doing another session with Ironmonk. Hey Monk.
Hello, I'm back.
Yes, you're back. I was looking at the timestamp from the last time we did our three-part series last year, and it was in like
Yeah,
May of last year. So it's been over a year since our
yeah.
series.
Which
Can you believe
which is
it?
like a which is like a lifetime in terms of module development, right? Like,
Right. It's,
yeah,
I mean, the amount of changes that you've pushed out, not just with active tiles, but across to your whole portfolio has been insane. So I thought, you know what, it's time to get back together again and look back at the changes of last year. And for anyone who wants to learn active tiles, I think we're also going to try to do maybe another module or two of yours, but just want to get everybody sort of caught up on like, what all has changed and what do we have access to now? Because a lot of things I don't even know how to use it yet, right? So I'll be coming in with really good user
yeah.
questions like what does this do?
A lot of things like it's been a year and yeah, when you asked for the interview, I'm like, what has changed? And so much has changed. I'm like, I can't
You're
remember
too close to
some
the
all
forest.
the
You
stuff.
can't answer
Right?
that question, but I
Well, and then like
can.
you say, all the other modules that I've got going on, like I forget half the stuff my modules do. It's
Yeah.
great. Somebody comes up with a look at this interesting thing. I'm like, oh wait, that's something I'm doing.
And
All
you do
right.
and you do this thing where I'll look at like your release notes and you'll have some major feature hiding down in like bullet number 32 of your
Yes.
release notes. And I'm like, oh my
Just like
gosh.
stuck in there.
And it'll start whole conversations with my team, like, "Look what we can do now." So, I mean, you're always
Yeah.
doing really, really cool stuff. And, which also, by the way, the last time that we talked wasn't a year ago, it was in the one shot that we did back in January. Actually, we did in December, recorded in December. So I'll
Yeah.
link to that in the video also. But that was fun because we got to use some active tiles in that game and show off some other stuff. So if anyone hasn't seen that, I'll link to it. But yeah, what we're looking at here, this is going to be maybe some of our backdrop. I might switch scenes to something else, but this is this big tavern that was just made with modular pieces. This came out in my last release, but I like it because I've got active tiles in here. Like I can double click these tables and I can switch these tables around just because I've got Monk's active tiles powering them and I can right click them and I can turn the lights off. And I just love stuff like this. All right. So I'm
Cool.
going to, let's increase the lighting here because we're going to need some light to work with. And what I did was I just dropped in case we want to do any demonstrations of anything, I dropped in just an active tile, right? I've got like a bunch of these and I made these because of active tiles. I said, I want to create a bunch of things that I'll know what they mean, even though I might make them invisible to my players. I want to create stuff that makes active tiles work. And so anyway, that's what all these things are. So I thought a good thing to do would be for me to just open up one of these tiles and start talking about some of the screens that we all know and love, but there's some things that I want to ask some questions about that have changed. And I don't know that I fully understand them. Or maybe I just want to point out that they changed. How's that sound?
Yeah. Oh, good. Yeah.
We all understand a lot of this stuff. I think some things that are new are variables, and how you can like
Yeah.
track variables. Can you explain the concept of variables for us and what we could do with
Um.
them?
Yeah. So the I can't exactly remember how the concept of variables came out, but I remember somebody came onto the Discord server and was wanting to keep track of a value. Um, I think it's sort of we at some point we're using Tagger, which is an amazing module,
Mhm.
but using Tagger to add Tagger values to things to keep track of a state that something was in. Um, Yeah, so you would check the tile to see if there was a tag, here's a flag.
Mhm.
Um, but I figured if anybody wasn't using Tagger, or if there was an instance where you wanted to save a specific value, um, then why not add variables?
Mhm.
And the variables can be used in the macro. They get sent whenever you go run an execute macro.
Mhm.
The values that are attached to this tile get sent to it, and you can use it in any of the handlebar. uh, any of the handlebar notation that you can put in, so you can drop a value in. Um,
What's a kind of a classic use case you've seen for variables that people have done?
we do have lots of logic in there to track the number of times that a
Mhm.
token has activated that tile,
Mhm. Mhm.
or how many tokens are within that tile. But if there's a specific set of circumstances where you want to increase a value, then you can use the variable.
So this could
Increase the
replace, like, for example, everyone's seen my video where I created pressure plates, and those pressure plates actually, in a very hacky way, moved a control token that was off the screen, right? And it moved it
Yeah,
towards another active tile, right? As they achieved successes, it would move it increment it towards the tile. This could replace that, right? I could have variables that track my progress
yeah.
towards a goal. Okay.
Although that is a really cool idea of having that actor move towards and trigger another tile. That's kind of cool.
Well, I had to hack it
Um,
some way, and that was the only thing I had at the
right.
time. So
um,
works just great.
the other good thing that variables are good to use is um, for the custom dialogue. And I think the custom
Oh.
dialogue was a brand new thing since last time. I think the last
Oh,
time
yes.
there was a dialogue, but in this one, you can have a full on custom dialogue however you want to display it with other interesting functions. I do actually have an example
Ooh.
in the latest active tiles of a keypad dialog where the user can um, type in or press the buttons,
Mhm.
and that dialog will check and see if the password is correct
Oh my
before
gosh,
moving
that's so
on.
cool. Is there okay,
Yeah.
well, let's do dialogue because dialogues didn't actually exist last time that we talked. So there's all sorts of new stuff I wanna dive into with
Okay.
dialogues. That's a huge, awesome area, and you
Yeah.
have me thinking like, "Boy, I hope there's a library of cool dialogues that people have made," but, uh, we'll get there.
I'm not sure there's a cool all I know is the one I have, and of course on my Discord server, we do have a channel for, amazing things,
Hmm.
which tends to be more amazing things that are going on with the tiles, but there's probably some amazing things in there going on with dialogues.
It's great. Well, I'm gonna link
Either
to your Discord server too if people wanna go check that out. I wanna go check it out
cool.
as well. I would love to see some kind of ready-made dialogues on the wiki or something like that.
Yeah.
Could be pretty cool.
I I'm like either that or the custom dialogues. I mean, it's been out for a while, but we had dialogues for a bit. So if people don't realize that they can customize it or don't realize that the power that the things that they can achieve with it, then maybe we haven't seen any good custom examples of dialogues because it's a little hidden gem.
Well, my
People
impression
just
of
haven't.
custom dialogues, if I'm going beyond just the stock stuff that you include in here, is that I have to like know how to code and like make buttons and
Yes,
stuff like that, right? So,
yes,
you know,
you do.
I
Yeah,
think then those of us that don't know how to code are going to rely on those who do. So this is maybe a call to arms
yeah,
for those who do know how to make those interfaces. It would be really great to have
yeah,
a out of the box keypad, right? How many sci-fi games are we playing
yeah,
out there that we just love a keypad? So I think it's great.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
well, so if I'm going to keep going in this before we get to the real red meat, which is dialogues, I think one of the major innovations since last time we talked is all of these other types of triggers that we can select. And at the time, like over a year ago, it was enter, exit, movement, stop within tile, kind of these top ones. I think
We're
elevation, even rotation have all been added.
we're were you allowed to put in more than one trigger back then?
No, yeah,
I
that's
can't
the
remember.
other thing.
Oh,
Now we can put in
okay.
all these so I had to use all of these tiles back then, and now you can do everything
Yeah.
in one tile using landings, which is the replacement
Oh,
term for
which we gotta talk about auto landings then, because there's a lot of them, and I find it amazing because yeah, you can have one tile that just does it all, you know?
yeah, yeah, I mean, it's insane. So, okay, so really quickly, for those I don't understand, when it's rotation, does that mean when a token is rotated within a tile, or what is that?
Yes,
Okay,
exactly.
fair enough.
Same with elevation, that should be pretty straightforward if
Mhm,
a token changes elevation within a tile.
okay. Token create, so is that is what if a token is just dropped onto that tile, or what does that mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So
Okay.
if a token is created within the tile, and
Okay.
that I think got added because of um, like the integration with enhanced journals, you
Hmm.
can start an encounter. And you can start an encounter within a tile. And as soon as you start that encounter, you create those tokens. Then you can trigger something
Oh.
um, like it switches the playlist from your regular playlist to the
Mm,
battle music.
cool. Love it. Love it. Okay, hovering in and out we saw before. Now you have all these combat triggers, right? So when combat starts, when there's a new round, I assume is what that means.
Yep.
Combat turns starting and then combat ending. All really, really helpful if you want to
Yep.
automate some stuff around combat.
Those
Yeah.
those ones are funny. Um, because it doesn't require a token to do anything on them.
Mm.
It just has to be on the scene. So it doesn't have to be anywhere within your
Oh, okay.
usable space. It just can be off to the side,
Interesting.
um, and it gets triggered. So they're very handy, but you
Hmm.
have to watch out because like they will
They'll
do
run.
their thing
Yeah.
anytime, anywhere.
Yeah. Which, as a reminder to everybody, you can always deactivate tiles, and then they don't
Yes.
do their intended actions. Okay, so those are cool. So the combat ones, but another one that works without any token interaction is scene change because I've tested
Yep.
this, right? I wanted a certain sound to play when I moved to a scene, right? And it works really
Yep.
well, sort of as designed. Does that mean scene change, like whether I guess it would, whether I'm coming to a scene or leaving it, or I guess it's just coming to the scene, right?
Coming to the scene,
Yeah.
because when you're leaving a scene, you're pretty much leaving it all behind.
Now, I think another one that's a big deal is door trigger, right? And door trigger
Yeah,
is if something happened with a door, you can make things happen too, right? So
yeah,
now it's like doors can
and
also be triggers for active tiles.
and I do believe there's two different ways to trigger that. If there's a door that is over top of a tile, um, and you have door trigger, then it checks to see if that door exists within the tile and will trigger it. Otherwise, you can link the door specifically to a specific tile.
Yeah, sure enough. So I don't know if you can see my tooltips, but it says
Oh,
trigger
yeah, there
tile
we go.
underneath this door. Yeah, or I can pick a tile, or based on tag. Okay, so
Yeah.
if something happens with a tile, is that what this means? What does this top
If
row
something
do?
happens with the door,
Hmm.
it will trigger the tile.
Okay, great. So I can even trigger tile somewhere else. Okay, and
Yeah,
whether it's open, closed, locked, love it. Okay, great.
yeah. And the check lock is one of those. If the door is locked or unlocked, then unlock door will trigger. If the player tries to open a locked door,
Hmm. And so
it'll
it
trigger the
rattles,
check lock.
and they can't open it, but all of a sudden it sets off
Yeah,
an alarm, and the bad guys come in.
yeah.
I love it.
Or the usual use case is it will prompt for like a thieves tool check,
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah,
to try and pick the lock.
fantastic. And
Or usually like a dialogue to say, hey, this door is locked, do you want to pick it or try and force it open?
mhm,
Yeah.
I love it. And what's great is we can now add all of these things into the same tile, and then we'll go when we get to action, show people how they can make one tile do so many things, which is
Yeah.
just fantastic. Other things that are new, not all of these were here I think last year, but like I didn't even think we could trigger just using the image rather than the border, right? And I think, what are you just looking at transparent pixels to calculate that, or
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. um and then it tries to find like a good outside border to it. it's
Mhm.
not It's not the best, don't get me wrong.
Mhm. Yeah.
I did my best. It's trying to find, a good outside line to everything. There are a lot like, if you have, an image with, like, lots of little parts to it,
Mhm.
it'll get very confused,
Yep.
about that. But if you have, like a solid image with a very distinct outline,
Mhm.
then it works perfectly fine, and it will only trigger when you click within that image.
Yeah, it's great. And definitely everybody experiment and test all of your creations as you create them. Okay, well, I
Yeah.
think that covers the new stuff. And obviously, there's some pretty significant changes there to enable a lot of things on our main tab, right? Our actions tab. So when I open this up, this is where the red meat is, gang. This is where all the fun stuff is. And I think I remember what's new. So as you see things that you think are important or little Easter eggs that you hid in bullet number 37 of 6 month go release, then let me know. But as I'm looking at what's new here, I think active effective is actually new from the last time, I think, because it's been in here a while. But I love that I can create or remove or toggle an active effect.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it might have been there, I can't remember, but it was updated a bit.
Yeah.
So it does some better stuff now.
Yeah. That's great. Add item, I think existed, or at least it did pretty soon after our session. But being able to add an item to inventory, I think you also made some changes to this. You did. I saw quite a few just kind of clean up and bug fixes and stuff like that for
Yeah.
items. Um, but this is new. Like this was new since last time. So characters all get copies of the items, or uh, you can round robin it, right? Or distribute
Yeah.
items between all of them. So it's great. Love it.
Yeah.
Um,
Again, a lot of this stuff happens because of conversations on the Discord server,
mhm,
on the Active Tiles channel. Um, somebody will pop in and say, "Hey, how do you do this?"
mhm.
And people start discussing it and come up with like some amazing but convoluted ways to do that.
Right.
And most of the time, I'm like, hold my drink.
Yeah,
I'll be right
right.
back.
And I've seen it. I've been one of those people who said, "How do you do
Yeah,
this?" And then we
yeah,
go
yeah.
around and around, and then like the next day you pop out with the solution. So appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah. After you've just updated all of your maps, and then I like, oh, by the way, the thing that you just spent, an hour or two on, yeah,
Monk, don't get
a
me
minute.
started. I've had to do some refactoring after all of your genius.
Yeah.
But I love it, right? Because it makes things simpler going forward. Now, the
Yeah.
alter actions always existed, but you've done some things to enhance it. Like one is, I can like type ahead and get like values, which is super helpful.
Mhm.
But also just the you putting in this help text.
Yes.
This
Yeah.
is where you need the space. This is where you leave the space out. Like this is
Yeah.
just so helpful. So
Yeah. Yeah.
and
That definitely was was an improvement because yeah, Active Tiles is kind of complicated. We I try and make it as user friendly as I can. But there's a lot of like commonly asked questions
oh yeah.
where, yeah, I've got the space. I might as well just dump it on the thing
Well,
here.
I love
Yeah,
it,
this is how
and
you use it.
it's incredibly helpful for us. So thank you.
A lot of these fields, there has been an improvement in that way back when they each had their own little custom function of like when you type something in, how does it parse what you've typed in? And I was finding that like there were similarities, but it wasn't always consistent. So there was always questions about how exactly do you type stuff in. So a couple versions ago, I ended up streamlining it and making sure that like for the value, everything is processed the same way. So
Good.
everything should accept dice notation. Everything should accept handlebar notation. The way to increase is to add a space in between. Yeah, how you
Yep.
set the value, all of that stuff. It should now be consistent between every single field.
That's great. Hey, for what
Yeah.
it's worth, I always struggle finding, I don't even know if this is solvable, but I always struggle figuring out when I'm dealing with attributes of other modules, like levels, right?
Mm.
And their flags, I never know how to find those. So if there's I'm putting in a plug for a future enhancement.
I it's been mentioned before, and the problem is that that type ahead is based on what the system decides to give active tiles.
Hmm.
And I know there's an issue because a lot of systems, I'm not going to name a system, but there's a handful that trim that set of fields down.
Hmm.
Um, so it doesn't cover everything.
Oh, okay.
So it kind of does require me to go off and write my own
Fair. Makes sense. Okay.
list
Well,
to go off. But
all right. Well, then my suggestion is going to go to the bottom of the stack, but
it's not the bottom. It's sort of the yeah. It's
no,
kind
it's
of
fine.
like it's solidly in the middle.
I'll wait for
You
other
know.
people to vote on it. Hey, if you guys have feature requests, put them in the comments. We'll see
Yeah.
who wins. Hey, what
Yeah.
does this mean in the attack action? I've used this 1,000 times. This is great.
Mm,
You pick an actor. The actor doesn't even have to be in the scene. You can have all of the attacks. I use it for
yeah.
traps and things. What does chat card and use do? I don't recognize. This seems new to me.
Yeah. Those are new. Um, and it sort of relates to how it integrates with other modules.
Hmm.
So the chat card one is your basic. That's if your system doesn't really support much in terms of actions.
Oh, okay.
All that will do is put it out to the chat card to say, "Hey, this attack has happened."
Ah,
Um,
and then if
it's up,
it's got any roles embedded in it, I can just click from there.
yeah,
But oh, that's
yeah,
nice. That's
and
great.
it's up to the GM to do
You know,
and figure out.
how very inclusive of you
Attack,
to.
hey, attack will attempt to run the attack.
Yeah,
It's not always successful because every system does things slightly differently.
I see.
So it kind of it should mostly work for Pathfinder 2E and 5E.
Okay.
But yeah, it's user discretion on the other ones. Yeah.
Mileage will vary with other systems.
Yeah.
Okay. And then
Um,
use, what is that?
use is generally if you are running MIDI, because
Hmm.
that will attempt to use the action, which will trigger MIDI to pick it up and put it into its workflow.
Oh, fascinating. Okay. So if we are using MIDI qual for automation,
Yeah.
we could
And
use the use action
and I
for an attack.
really hope
Okay.
I have that correct and it's not the other way around. The attack
Okay.
is the one
Fair.
you want for MIDI and use is the one other than that. I believe that use is the one that you want for MIDI.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll let some folks test that and tell us in the comments.
Yeah.
If you were right. Permissions has always been in there, super helpful with kind of everything. Change scene has been in there for some time. Change wall and door is super helpful. This is new
Yeah.
since last time, right? And I can just like literally point at a door, or I can use tagger and say any of these doors that are like, I have a secret door. And when I interact, I have a scene where you can interact with a tile that is a statue, and then it will change a secret door into um, it'll go from secret to regular, right? And I have it set
Yeah.
to toggle so I can turn it kind of on and off. That's so
And
nice.
and and you know, sneak peek on stuff that I'm working on.
Oh.
Um Yeah, this is the next version. I'm literally working on this as we speak. Next version, you will be able to, because right now this is sort of directed towards a door.
Hmm.
The next version will be directed toward walls, and you will be able to change the lighting, the sound
Ooh.
restriction,
Wow.
the movement restriction. You'll be able to change the door. I mean, like right now, you can do it with the altar, but it's kind of
Yeah, it's
difficult to
it's
figure out what
hard.
you're doing.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
lot to code in there. Man, that's amazing. So
yeah,
really, like, if we want a scene to fundamentally transform, we already
yeah.
can change the background. We can now affect lighting and all the walls. That'll be awesome.
But yeah, it's on its way. And I think one of the things that prompted it is because somebody had a like a dungeon maze that changed
Hmm.
that that
Hmm.
that completely reshifted and altered and became a different maze. And now with this, you can select various walls using Tagger and press a button, have it just the entire thing shift,
Oh man, that's
which would be
great.
awesome.
Yeah, so I can have
Yeah,
like 3 tags, like version 1, version 2, and version 3 of the scene, and I can just like essentially
yeah,
just toggle between those. That'll be incredible.
yeah.
All right, I'm into it. Think we know all about our chat messages, also super helpful. Creating a journal note, I think, is actually new, right? So this
Maybe.
is actually dropping it onto the canvas, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So creating a
Now
note
you
from the
have to
journal.
have the journal entry, right? And you can use an action
Yes.
to create a journal entry, but this one actually takes the journal entry and drops it onto the canvas. gives it a particular icon. And I guess it would be visible to the players if you gave them permission for that journal entry, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Cool.
exactly.
Love it. How stinking helpful.
This is probably a good place to stop this particular episode. Tune in, subscribe to the channel, and hit the alerts button so that you can be alerted when the next episode comes. Really want to thank Monk for making time to do this. Just what he's enabled for us to do as GMs is just second to none. Appreciate all the work. Thanks to all the community for all of your support of this channel, of our Patreon, and of the work that we're doing in the Foundry community and in the VTT community at large. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.